on this computer. That's what I want to do. So we're now recording. Welcome to our stencil mini crop. We are going to learn at least 3 different ways that you can use stencils today. And I'm sure you're going to pick up a few tips and a few ideas. I'm going to be doing something maybe a little bit different in, a few people waiting. Let's admit them. Excellent, welcome. I want to show you some products as we go along as well. I don't want this to be too salesy because I do want you guys to be crafting along with me and just having fun like we would in a normal crop. But there's some neat stuff that I want to show you, and since you can't be in the store right now, I want to be able to show you and kind of be your personal shopper for the next little while as well. So play along with the supplies that you have. But if there's something you don't have, then I'm sure there's good things that I can show you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and mute. Now, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, I pressed the wrong button. I can't find the mute everyone button. So if you are not already muted, if you could please mute yourself just so that we keep the background noise to a minimum. Matt always says I get my teacher voice going and I sound like I'm shouting, so I apologize if that's the case, but just help manage things as we go along. In terms of what we have to offer for stencils, we've got a few different brands here in the store. We've got some Hero Arts stencils that are super cool. I haven't really had a chance to play with them yet, but they make some really beautiful backgrounds. We do have, and I think I've shown you before, we do have some stencils from Gina K. She does, and so these two, I don't know if you can see them very well. That one has like a donut, it's got sprinkles, it's got like a little cupcake swirl, as well as this background piece. These coordinate with some of the stamps that they've come out with. This one has bubbles and pineapples and citrus stuff. And then one of my favorite stencils is this one from Gina K. We only have a couple left. I'm trying really hard to get some more. I've used this a lot with the foiling techniques that we were doing, and I absolutely love it. Oh, there's a few more people looking to join. Welcome, welcome. They're all joining. Welcome, everyone. I'll try and keep an eye on that admit all button. And then we have, we got a couple of tonic stencils. I'm going to flip it over because that's better, easier to show you. There's this one here, which I've shown you as well because I've used that quite a bit. There's this one here that makes some really pretty flowers and daisy-like things. And then there's this one that has that kind of circle. What is it called? This one is called linking rings. So you could do some really pretty stuff with that. And then we have, I'm just going to start throwing stuff around here. We have some of our Tim Holtz ones, and Tim Holtz are nice basic ones. So we've got this one that's got kind of that fade look to it. He's got some that are called shapeshifters. I think I've got one pulled out to show, maybe I don't. But what these ones have is they have little lines on them so that you can line them up and move them around. That's another one. This funky shape we're going to use today. I'm going to show you some neat stuff with those. And lots more. There's lots and lots of great Tim Holtz stencils. He's probably got a gajillion of them. Like this one says set number 37, and I don't even think that's a recent one. So if you want some nice basic stencils, our friend Tim has some cool ones. All right. So the first thing we're going to do, if you want to grab a piece of paper and grab a stencil, is I'm just going to do a quick little review of using stencils with your ink. I'm using Distress Oxide just because that's what I have handy. But you can use whatever ink you choose to use. So get out your blending tool, get out your ink, and get some paper and a stencil. These are the ones I'm going to use. But I did grab, this one is one of the shapeshifter ones. I don't know if you can see, get it up as close as I can. See how it's got the opening? And then beside it, you've got a little etched line. That's how you line them up. So we will play with that for a little bit. Did I grab paper? I did grab paper. Oh, that's secret paper. I don't want you to see that yet. All right, so I'm going to start just with a piece of white. I'm going to grab my oxide and my blending tool. And yeah, let's start with this shape-shifting one. Now my paper is probably a little bit too big. If you have, oh, I know what I also want to show. I'm going to use my Wendy Becky station today. So you can, if you're stenciling, you can absolutely just use whatever works surface that you have. Use a little bit of purple tape to hold your stencil in place. But this Wendy Becky station is pretty cool because it's got these great magnets that hold things in place for you. And I'm just going to ink up my blending tool and then just very gently in a circular motion, I'm filling in my holes. So go ahead and just play along, color along. We're just going to be doing some fun techniques, so don't worry too much about where it's positioned. We just want to get some practice. Now I am using the foam blending tool today as opposed to my blending brushes. I find with stencils when the openings aren't quite as big, I'm not as worried about getting those circle marks as I would if I was blending an entire background. I also find that this gets me into little nooks and crannies. And quite honestly, it's just what I grabbed today. So there you go. And you just want to work in that circular motion. If you don't press too hard, I mean, when I was doing it, I think I was pressing too hard because my stencil was moving. It was buckling a little bit. Just press nice and light because you can always go back in and add another layer if you want more depth of color. So there's mine. Sorry for the reflection. And with
a couple girls that want to come in the class.
Oh, thank you. I'll get them. Hey there, ladies. Sorry about that. I've got the waiting room set up. I'm trying to keep an eye on it. I think I'm going to disable that for next time, so hopefully we don't have to worry about it anymore. Welcome. We're just doing some stencil blending. So as just a nice basic blend, that's what you've got with your stencil. And it creates that beautiful background, and you can do different colors, and you can really do whatever you want. I like to then just take a baby wipe and give it a little wipe down over here on my scrap paper, because if I'm going in with my next color, I don't want it muddy with the color that was already on there. And there's the foam. Super matte will take care of that. So as a basic blend, that's something that's really easy to do. Like I said, with these shape shifters, I can now go in and line up. Let me get it the right spot here. So I've just lined up my little arrows on there to fill in the gaps. I'll show you with that, but then you know what? I'm going to show you how to do this even with your regular stencil. So this time I'm going to do a different color. There we go. And again, just light circular motions. And when you take your stencil away, you've got that beautiful pattern showing, like so. All right, so that's using the Tim Holtz Shapeshifters one, but how do you do that if you just have regular stencils? Let me tell you, it's easy. Where did I throw my baby wipe? I'm just gonna wipe this one down because otherwise I have a big mess to clean up afterwards. All right, so now I'm going to put notes on them so I knew what I was doing. This one's just a basic star stencil. And just because I'm demonstrating, I'm going to flip over. You can keep working on the paper that you're working on, or if you want to change to a different piece of paper, go for it. I'm going to put my stencil down like so. Throw on my magnets. I'm going to use yellow this time. Yellow stars, twinkly stars. Same basic motion. Circle, circle, circle. Once again, I'm just going to remind you, you want to be light. You don't want a lot of pressure because you don't want your stencil to shift. La la la. Yep, I'm sick. I'm talking to myself. Oh, good. You guys are on mute, so you can laugh at me. And I won't even know about it. All right, welcome people who are just joining us. We're just learning how to do some basic stenciling with our ink. And then I'm going to show you something super fun. So this was my basic layer. I did that in yellow ink. I remove that. And there are my stars. Oh, that yellow's hard to see. So there are my stars. Now I'm going to wipe off my stencil. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, let it dry for a second. I'm going to start by
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
So when you're doing that star one, could you do layering where you do like a blue or a dark oxide, and then would it work to do like the yellow stencil on top?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. The key to that is just making sure it's lined up, which as long as you're careful, you can do that. So and this is, I'm going to teach you something just even a little bit funkier that you can do with it. So I'm going to line mine up with where it was. And then I'm going to turn it ever so slightly. You know, I'm going to tape down my paper just so that it doesn't move through this.
Sheri, I'm having a really hard time focusing on what you're doing because Suzette Scanlon's background is just killing me.
Okay, Suzanne.
I think she's in Hawaii or something, but I'm entranced by her background.
Oh, I see. I see what you're saying. She's very tropical. She's got that virtual on there. Yeah, that's gonna make.
You can all be in Hawaii if you want. It's a virtual background.
There you go. And we made our own Dole Whip last night out of pineapple juice and frozen pineapple and ice cream. So that made me feel like we were back in Hawaii. Anyways. Try not to get distracted. I'll try and be even more engaging than that gorgeous palm tree. I'm just going to tape down my background here just so it doesn't move around on me. Just a little bit of purple tape. So again, I'm going to line this up where I had it originally, and then I'm going to turn it just a smidge. I'm not even going to tell you degrees because I've got no idea. Gonna magnet it down, and just so we've got some brighter color, I'm gonna go back in with the blue this time. And same idea, I'm gonna color in my layers, color in my stars. Build up my color.
What do you use to clean off your stencils after?
When I'm using the ink, I'm just using baby wipes.
Okay.
I'll talk to cleaning a little bit more as we get into some other media.
Okay. Thank
Other
you.
stuff that we're going to use. Generally, if I'm using messy stuff other than ink, I also have, see if I can do this without spilling. I have these little silver pie trays or like the square ones that you can just get from the dollar store, and I have just a little bit of water in there. So when I'm done with it, I just toss it in there so that it still stays moistly, as Justin Trudeau says. It still stays a little bit damp so that you don't have to worry about cleaning it right away. You can leave it while you're working. Now, if you do want to use it again, you can pull it out and pat it dry. But that way it just gives you a little bit of time before you have to, so you're not just using, cleaning. But again, with the ink, I'm just using a baby wipe to wipe it up. All good?
Yes, thank you.
You're so welcome. All right, so I've done my first layer, I've done my second layer, and now I'm going to reveal the magic. So peeling that up, and all of a sudden, and it's hard to see because my yellow's not very bright. Look at how it's starting to create a galaxy. And I could then go in and turn it just a little bit more and put a third color in there. And that way you can create really beautiful backgrounds with just one stencil. And you don't need a fancy stencil for it either. So that was using the stars. When I was playing around a little bit earlier as I was figuring out what I was gonna try and narrow down my wish list to, I started creating with this stencil here. I don't know if you can. Oh, that one's sticking. So it just looks like that. It's kind of like a little cobblestone. It's got these unique shapes to it. The Tim Holtz one. Look at what I came up with. So just by taking it and rotating, and adding in different colors. Now I will say doing it, so here I tried to do it with yellow and my favorite Twisted Citron. There wasn't enough contrast between the colors, I found. It just depends on what look you're going for. But if you've got more contrast between your colors, and especially with the oxides, you can see how the layers then start to change colors as well. This one I did, and I just, instead of rotating it, I would just do one, and then I slid it a little bit to the right, because I actually did it that way. Slid it a little bit to the right and just kept doing my layers that way.
Sheri, Alexis is trying to get in.
Oh,
Thanks.
okay, I don't like this waiting room. I'm gonna have to figure out how to turn that off. Sorry, everyone who was waiting. Welcome to our session. I thought the waiting room would turn off once we started the class, but apparently not, so I'm gonna have to figure that out. So joys of live TV. All right, so again, just you can have your basic stencils and you can shift them, you can twist them. You don't always have to use them the way that they're shown. And so that's a great way that you can really get some extra mileage out of your stencils as well. Now, I showed you a bunch of stencils off the top, but what if you have a die that you absolutely love and want to turn it into a stencil? You can do that. So I have this beautiful flower stencil from Tonic, and I actually really like these because the outside cut comes as a separate piece. But if you have acetate, you can then make your own stencil simply by using your die and cutting it through acetate. Now, I'm not going to demo with this one because I think my acetate is too thin. I'm afraid that it will tear. This was the acetate off of an old Cricut mat. So don't feel like you need to go out and buy acetate. You can use acetate that comes with other stuff. This is the packaging for that die that I just showed you. I could easily take this back part of the packaging, run it through my die cut machine, and make my own stencil. You do want some acetate that has a bit of a weight to it, but you don't want it too thick, otherwise you're going to be cranking it through your die cutting machine a bajillion times. With this one, the other thing I did is when I put the acetate down, I put a piece of cardstock underneath of it. So again, it had a little bit more bulk to be cutting through. But you know, you can really take your dies and extend the use of those by making your own stencils. So just another idea for your ink blending and for your stenciling. That's another way to use it. All right, so I've now shown you, well, it's really one with two parts. One technique with two parts is your ink blending and then your shifting so that you can create some different looks with it. Now I'm going to show you technique number 2. If you have a stencil, another piece of paper, and some markers, or even some pencil crayons, that's what I'd like you to grab next. Or you can just watch me, either way. Put my inks off to the side. That's not in the right spot. You should see my table here. I need another piece of paper. All right. So this time I'm just going to use a circular stencil that has some bubbles. And I am going to use, so I'm using Nouveau glitter markers, but you can use whatever markers or whatever coloring utensils you have. I would be cautious if you have a bit more of an A-type personality. I would be more cautious about using your Copics or Sharpies or anything like that, because you probably won't get your stencil looking clean. It'll be clean because I know you're going to clean it, but it may not look clean because it'll stain the plastic. But so you can either use water-based markers, you can use pencil crayons, or you can just put up with the mess. So I'm just going to lay my stencil down on top of my paper. Do I have extra paper tape? Yeah, just to hold it down. We are going old school back to our kindergarten days, and we're just going to trace. So I'm going to use my marker here. This one is called Fired Brick, I believe. And I'm just going to trace in my circle, color it in, trace in my circle. So maybe you want to do, maybe you have a stencil, or maybe you want to do it in a color. So say you wanted to do it in this fiery red color, but you don't have that as an ink. You don't have it as a paint. You don't have it in anything else other than a coloring utensil. You can still use your stencils. La la la. This could almost be as therapeutic as coloring. Filling in the dots. The other nice thing about this technique is now I can use different colors at the same time. So that was with the fired brick. This one is called, I think it's called Venetian Teal. And I can't see where the name is on this guy, but when you get a marker for the first time, it's got a white tip, and we're just gonna pump it until we get the color flowing. Again, live TV, we're just gonna wait till this works. There we go. Come on. I should have done this ahead of time, but I wanted to show you what a naked tip looks like. It's like watching paint dry almost. Thank you for joining me in. Let's just sit and watch me pump my pen. All right, I'm gonna leave that for a second. I'm gonna go back to red. So again, I'm just gonna go into your little holes, and you get the idea. You can also mix it. Like I could take my yellow now, because I want different colors, and I can go in and fill in. Oh, smudging a little bit, so you just got to be careful with that. Make sure it's dry. But you're getting the idea, so that when you lift it up, there are your bubbles. And again, by using the marker, you can control which bubbles you're coloring in or which shapes you're coloring in. Maybe I'm going to now come in and add in my orange here. This is coming in. There, it's getting a little bit. So maybe I'm going to go in and just fill in. But you know what? I'm just going to do half. And voila, you've got your shapes. And that way you can pick and choose what you color and what colors you color them in. These markers, I don't know if you can see it on the camera. They've got glitter in them so that they shimmer. We have sets of 3 of these, so you could do a really pretty ombre look to that, and really easy to color in. And I like these Nouveau ones because again, they're water-based, so they're just gonna wipe clean with my baby wipe.
Yeah, well, if it's good any day after day, it's fine.
So there you go. And again, you could use anything. You could use pencil crayons, you could use You know, if you're really into Zentangling and you had a big enough opening in your stencil, you could doodle little shapes into it. Depends on how crazy creative you are feeling that day. So that is our technique number 2.
Okay, all right.
I bet your wheels are already turning in great different ways that you could go ahead and use your stencils. Again, I could do that even with this mandala. Maybe I do my green ones in here. And since I'm just doing it all on one page, it's not going to look as pretty as it could. But I've got this one here. And then I go into my red. For most of us, if we're not that good at drawing, this helps you get little shapes and create little patterns that are already created for you, and it makes you look like this super awesome artist, which in theory you are, because you're the one that came up with the idea. So here I've colored in and when I lift it up, voila. See how pretty that is? Maybe I'll put a little dot in the center over here where the light's a little bit better. So there you go. That is technique number 2. Oh, don't do it on here because that'll be pretty. Why am I talking funny? Because that's just the kind of mood I'm in. Any questions so far, ladies? All right, keep on keeping on. Technique number 3. If you tuned into my foil demonstration a couple weeks ago? I think it was a couple weeks ago. Or was it only last week? I've totally lost track of the days. You've seen me use stencils with pastes. There are all kinds of different mixed media pastes out there. There are grit pastes, and you could use paint. You can use that transfer gel that I was showing you with that foil technique. The thing to remember about liquid media, is you don't want it too runny. So, I mean, you could try this technique with watercolor and that kind of thing. Just remember, though, that if it's too runny, no matter how tightly you have your stencil pressed down, you could get some seepage and bleeding underneath. And you know what? That might be the look you're going for, but it's just something that you want to be aware of. So for my demonstration next, I'm going to use a product that we have that's called luster polish. But if you have any media whatsoever, any pastes, any gels, any glitter gels, anything you want to use, feel free to grab it with your stencil and your paper. And that's what we're going to do next. So our polishes come in a jar like this. We've got a variety of colors. Some of them have sparkle. Some of them are a little bit more of I keep calling it a lotion, but these are more of these ones are called opal polishes. This is luster polish, and they're super fun to play with. I'm going to actually grab black this time because I want to show you this stuff on black. So remember, with stenciling, you don't always have to use white paper. You can do whatever color you want, as long as it's the media you're putting on top is going to show on it. So I'm going to take my paper down. Ladies, if I'm going too fast as well, please slow me down. I tend to get on a roll, and I just got so much I want to show you. It's pretty exciting. So now I'm going to take this. This is one of those tonic stencils that I think you guys have seen before. I'm going to lay that on top, plop my magnets down so it stays nice and still. With the polishes, the applicator is in the lid. Oh, this is still a little damp from when I cleaned it earlier in the week. Unscrew my lid, and with this, you're just going to do a little scoop and a slide. So you're just getting a little bit on your applicator, like so. Again, if you're using your paste, you want to be using your spatula and you want to kind of plop it on your paper and then smooth it out with your spatula or your stencil pal. With this stuff, just like we did with the ink, I'm going to go in a nice circular motion and just fill in all my nooks and crannies in my stencil. So I really like stencils because they are pretty versatile and you can use all these different techniques with it, and then you can wash them pretty easily. As I was saying earlier, I think it was to Tracy there, if you're using a wet media or something that's sticky, so especially with your pastes and your gels, you do want to have that tray of water handy so that you can dump it in there and let it stay wet until you have time to clean it. I learned that from our awesome Alexis. Sorry to the ladies who were waiting. Hopefully you're getting in. We are doing stenciling with a polish, or if you've got a paste that you want to use, this is the technique that we're trying this time. I just filled in all my areas. If you're using a paste, you want to make sure you have a nice, smooth, even coat. Where'd my lid go? I'm going to plop that back in. And then when I take this away, there we go. So you can see where on this one, I was probably pressing too hard. So in some of these areas here, it did bleed underneath the stencil. So that's just something that comes with practice. Definitely would recommend that if you're playing with stencils that you just, and I say this about a lot of different techniques, just grab some scrap paper, grab an hour of your afternoon or your evening, or if you're early morning person like me, do it early in the morning and just play. See what happens, see what works, see what it does. And then when you go to actually create something that you want a finished product with, you've already worked out the kinks.
So Sheri,
yes.
How does that, like, if you were doing one like that, could you do half of it in one color and then half in another color polish? Like, would you
Absolutely.
have to let it dry? Do they blend together? I've never seen the polishes before.
So the polishes, I mean, they dry pretty quickly. Like I'm touching it now, and it's not smudging too bad. I would probably, so depends on what you mean by using different colors. If you were gonna do blotches of each color, what I would probably do is one color, let it set to dry maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and then go back in and do the other colors. If you were like maybe you were working from like a pink into a purple, I think you could probably do it from left to right pretty seamlessly.
Sheri,
Yes.
could you use acrylic paint?
You could use acrylic paint. Again, I would be careful that it wasn't too runny. Like
Okay.
you want the paint to be pretty thick so that it doesn't seep in like I've done, and part of that is just making sure your keep wanting to say Spencer for some reason. Your stencil is really smoothed down. So here, when I was doing it, I only had magnets in a couple of places. If I was using something like that, I would probably get out like full strips of tape and tape it down so that it stays nice and taut and firm to your paper.
Thank you. And it washes off okay. It washes off the stencil
Yes,
okay.
absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
Thank
Again,
you.
I would have my tray with water, so when you were done, you could just dunk it right in the water and then go clean it afterwards, just to make sure it doesn't dry and kind of cake on there. There is a product out there that's not available in Canada yet. We're working on getting it in. It's called Pixie Spray, and it's a really low tack adhesive spray that you can put on your stencils so that when it goes down, even all these little nooks and crannies stay stuck as well. However, it comes in an aerosol can, and they will not allow it over the Canadian border because it doesn't have the right warnings and that kind of thing on it. Our distributor out in BC, it has been working for a few months to try and get it in for us. However, with all of this that's going on, it's from a company called ThermoWeb that does the purple tape and does a lot of the stuff that we were playing with the foils. They have shut down. So they're not shipping anything. So anything that he was working on now has kind of been delayed a little bit, but please know I am working on that stuff. But yeah, as far as what media you use, again, as long as it's not too runny and as long as your stencil stays nice and flat. The last thing I was gonna say with paint, instead of doing the circular motion, you might wanna do more of a pouncing, because if you're circling, you're pushing it under all the bits. Whereas if you're pouncing, you're going more straight up and down. So it's not going to have as much force to seep under the edges. Sound good?
Sounds great. Thank you.
Awesome. So I'm now going to take this, I'm going to toss it in my little tray so that it can come clean later on.
Hey Sherry, that was the Cosmic Shimmer Luster Polish. Was that the yellow limes, the green one?
This was the Opal Polish Yellow Limes. Yes.
Yellow limes. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I am going to show you this one. So as you can see, that's got more of a metallic look to it, calling that opalescence look. I'm going to do one just to show you what the luster polish looks like. That one's more sparkly. So let me grab, you know what, let's use my mandala because I love my mandala. And I'm going to tape her down just so she doesn't wiggle. Admit. There we go. Welcome, welcome. All right, so I'm going to put my mandala down, put my magnets down. And so same thing with the luster polish, you just kind of crack your lid. There's your applicator. You can see how it's kind of got, again, I keep thinking of it more like a lotion or a face cream almost, though I don't think you'd want to be, you're in for a real treat if you're putting this kind of stuff on your face. Maybe it's for your part-time job, you know, I'm not going to judge, but. All right, so I'm going to scoop it out. I'm going to get some here on my applicator. And again, just in a circular motion. So this one is, I'm going to see if I can do it with this Violet Vibe. Fill in all my nooks and crannies. Maybe add a little bit more. Ta-da! So when you're talking about the polishes, when I'm done, what I'm going to do to clean this is I'm just going to go and put maybe a little bit of gentle hand soap or dish soap and just squeeze and rub this out until you get as much of the color out as you possibly can. Some of it, like this purple, will probably stain in the long run, but if you can at least get most of the stuff out, it's not going to dry inside. All right, you ready for the magic? Woohoo! Probably can't see it very much yet because it's down here, but look at that.
Wow.
So the really cool thing about these polishes, if you haven't seen them before, is that it really takes on the color that you have the paper that you're using. And I will show you, not to reveal the surprise too much. Let's see. So again, that's that violet on the black, like I just showed you. But when you put it on white, that's what it looks like. So they really do change color depending on whether you're using light paper or dark paper. This one is a green pearl, and if you can see how it's got kind of that really iridescent green look to it when you hold it into the light. Then when you flip to it on black, that's what it looks like. So a lot of these polishes I call magic because they really change color depending on. So this is the same one, Pink Thistle, Pink Thistle. Those are the exact same polishes, just on different papers. So they're fun to play with. All right, so that is Oh, I better put this in the water too. That is using your stencils with pastes and polishes and other, let's say, liquid media. And then the fourth technique, so this is our bonus technique, is how many of you would have thought to use your stencil with glue? I bet not too many. So that's what we're going to do next. So if you have a stencil, if you have some liquid glue, and what I was using to apply it was I just took one of my blending foams, and I'm going to use that to apply the glue. I just had it wrapped in a baby wipe so that when I used it, a couple hours ago, it stayed damp. You could absolutely, if you don't want to use one of your blending foams, or if you have these handy, just use a makeup sponge. So what we're gonna do is, if you have a craft mat handy or just a scrap piece of paper, because we're gonna squeeze some glue out onto that, I'm gonna use this circle stencil from our friend Tim.
Sheri, what's that collection called?
This is part, so Tim has a number of stencils. This one is, let me find my little stack stencils. Michelle Hankin, is that you?
It is.
Okay, I may have to look that up and I'll email you afterwards. I can't, I put them back
Okay,
here.
no problem. No problem. Thank you.
You know what, I prefer.
So the one with the circles that I'm going to use is set number 39. And it comes with one that has the honeycomb, the circles, and little diamond or squares, however you want to look at it. Okay?
Well, you don't need to.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. All right, so I'm going to tape down my paper with my purple tape.
Okay, yeah, you don't need.
I am going to place my stencil down. And again, I'm going to magnet it down so that it stays. So I am using Cosmic Shitter. So that was so wrong. Please bleep that out. Cosmic Shimmer, enunciate my words. This is called Flake and Glitter Glue, but you can use pretty much any liquid glue that you may have, at least for today. The reason why this one is specifically designed for flake and glitter is that it will stay tacky a little bit longer than a regular glue, but for today, use what you got. So I'm just squeezing. Let's tuck this underneath, or flip it over. There we go. I'm just gonna squeeze out a gob. Can you see that? So I've just got a gob there. Very technical term, a gob. I'm gonna use my blending tool, but again, if you want to, you don't want a lot on your sponge. And this time, instead of doing the circular, we're gonna do that pounce. So you just wanna lightly pat and fill in your holes. And this glue is kind of cool, especially on black, because it turns blue. When it dries, it will dry to clear. So that's when you know it's ready. I'm gonna switch back over to this guy. So just pounce, pounce, pounce. Fill in whatever holes you want. And while we're at it, just because it does take a little bit of time to dry, I'm going to do a second one because I'm going to show you 2 different things that you can do on your cardstock. Yeah, let's do black again, just because I've got lots of black cut. Oh, Matt's teasing me. We've got Easter cream eggs left over. So someone was saying that the palm tree was distracting. The chocolate is also distracting.
Sheri?
Yes?
Hi, it's Susan. The method you just used to apply that glue, the lady who was asking about using paint. You can
Susan, sorry, you're going to have to speak up a little bit. I can't hear you.
Oh, the lady who was asking about using acrylic paint.
Yes?
You can do the same thing using your dabber or your sponge and putting a very soft, light amount and use your paint through the stencil that way.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm not sure if you heard that, Barb. If you're using your paint, you could use one of these as opposed to a paintbrush to apply your paint. All right, so I'm just going to gently peel this up. We're going to let it set to dry for a second while we make a second one. Because while you got the stuff out, you might as well make a couple. Just for fun, I'm going to change my stencil because, you know, I like this one's got a little bit bigger holes. So again, we're just going to pounce, pounce, pounce. And we're doing this because we want that glue to dry a little bit before we get, not dry so that you can't use it, but dry so that it's not as wet as it was. Pounce, pounce, pounce. All right. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to put my stencil in my water. Oh, it looks like I missed a few holes, but we're winging it, so it's all good. As long as you were gentle, you probably could lay this back down and reposition it, or you just embrace the randomness. So here's my bubbles. I'm going to let that dry. If you look back at your first one, it should be pretty clear already. I am going to grab a piece of printer paper, so just any scrap paper, and I'm going to make a little funnel because we're going to put some glitter on this baby. And this is just my little funnel to prevent message, or you know what, glitter gets everywhere, let's be real. But we're going to try and minimize the glitter. So I'm just going to sprinkle my glitter over top of my glue. Tap it off. And look at that. I've picked up my circles that was in the glue and give it a little flick. Get off some of that excess. I did this on white a little bit earlier, so you can see that my circles really pop out, so you could create some really pretty sparkly backgrounds with that. Another way that you can use your stencil and glitter, and Alexis taught this at our retreat, I believe back in November, is this way. So that was using that tonic stencil, and what she did is she layered on double-sided tape right onto the tag. And then she put the stencil down so that it's, and I think we rubbed it with a dryer sheet just to give it a little bit of resistance to the tape, but we put the stencil down, sprinkled the glitter over top, hold it up. The glitter, so this was for the red glitter, it all stuck where the stencil allowed it to go through. Let me try and get this in a better light. And then once that's removed, you've got all the lines where the stencil was, just add your second color and that'll stick to that double-sided tape. All right, so I'm gonna go back to now oh, hang on. Clean up what you're doing first. So now we've got my little funnel here. I'm just gonna take it gently, hope that you don't sneeze, hope that the wind doesn't blow. Pour it back into my jar. And make sure you put the lid on, because a random elbow could knock this flying and then you'll be sniffing glitter till September. All right. Now I'm going to go back to my second one that I made. This stuff you guys may or may not have, but it's something that's super cool. I'm going to show you how to use this with gilding flakes. So gilding flakes are these little wafery light flakes of metallic goodness. Like it's so light and thin, you can barely even feel it. But when this stuff gets put on something sticky, it is really tremendous what it looks like. So I'm just gonna take my big chunks like this, and I'm gonna, and right now it's not really doing that much because we still have another step to do. And again, okay, let's put the lid on so you don't spill it. I'm gonna grab another piece of printer paper just to have something underneath. And then I have this little scrubby doodah. And I'm just gonna rub in a circular motion to move those gilding flakes around into the glue. Almost sounds like sandpaper. And again, be really careful you don't sneeze right now or those gilding flakes are gonna go everywhere. Then when you tap it off, that.
Wow.
Now you can see where I went outside my stencil here, but if you have one of those glue erasers or the creative detailing tool that can erase foam, not foam, foil. I'm having trouble with my words today. You can easily go in and remove that. I don't know if this will do it or not, probably not. But yeah, you could go in, or likely what I would just do is trim my boo-boos off and have that there. So you can see it does get a little bit messy. I don't know, let me hold my workstation up. I got little flakes everywhere. So you do want to make sure that you are aware of that, or you will be wearing it. I probably should have had a bigger piece of paper underneath. If you still have big flakes, you can then pick it up and put it back in your container and keep on using them. But little flakes like this, I'm just gonna toss in the wastebasket. So this stuff is really cool. This is the one that I just used that has that fiery look to it. It is called Autumn Leaves, and you can really tell that that is a beautiful autumn thing. And then already thinking ahead to Christmas, we've got this one that is gold and silver. It's called Sunlight Speckle. This one has gold, more silver than gold this time, a little flecks of green. It's called Silver Dream. And then we just have straight gold. And so the stencil is really great that you can create some really pretty patterns with them. I also, when we learned about this stuff at Creativation in the, I was gonna say in the summer, but it was in January. What they did is they had this oval cut out of double-sided adhesive. You just put the die cut there, and then you just filled in the gaps with those gilding flakes, and it sticks really well to that double-sided tape. So there you have it, ladies. That is 4 techniques for using your stencils. And it's all, well, we've almost been an hour, but I want us to make a card together. So I want you to choose either your favorite creation that we've made today already, or I will give you a couple minutes if you want to pick your favorite technique that you can do from home and make up a nice background on a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Actually, I'm going to trim this down to so 4 by 5 1/4 piece, and let's make a card. Just to finish off, so you feel like you've got something finished for the day. I'm going to get rid of this flaky stuff. Oh, and of course it blew all over. Matt's going to make me get out the vacuum. Where is my teenage child labor when I need it? I have to say, we've been pretty lucky. Our eldest has been helping out by making dinner most nights for us. So We've had shepherd's pie and we've had some pasta casseroles. He's done a great job helping out. So thank you to Sam. Not that he's watching because, you know, he's not a crafty guy. Well, apparently he's doing his chores, so that's good. Gotta love extra hands. All right, I'm gonna trim this down.
Hey, Sherry, it's Allison. I'm going to go. Thanks so much, though.
You're so welcome, Allison.
Have a great day, ladies.
Thank you for joining in with Facebook yesterday, and
Thank you. That was lots of fun.
enjoy the rest of your weekend.
You too. Bye.
Just because I want to be speedy, I'm going to use my inks. I'm going to, instead of the stars this time, I'm going to use these triangles, and I'm just going to create a little border here. So I hope you guys are all still finding time to craft. I'm sure the novelty of being home is starting to wear off, but I think it's important for our stress levels and our mental health that we keep crafting. I would like to think that when we're a few months down the road from here and maybe life is resuming its normal pattern, that we remember how awesome it is to craft, and that we'll keep doing it and making time for it because it's so important. Now, remember that this is the girl who is crafting for all of you, and that's how I'm making my time, is you guys are holding me accountable. So I want you to continue to hold me accountable in the new world as well. Wow, that sounds really dystopian, doesn't it? I'm gonna add some blue. Cool. You gotta love it when a color combination works out for you. So there's my basic background. I just used the blue and the green. I shifted my stencil a little bit, like I showed you in the beginning. Am I gonna be brave and add a third color? Heck, why not? Another thing I'm going to suggest from a cleaning standpoint is if you are using the glue, so the glue is definitely one of those things that it does get sticky and really icky pretty quickly. I just went to the dollar store and bought a little nail brush. So it's nice and gentle. It's not going to harm your stencils in any way, but this will help you have a little bit of grit in order to clean those stencils and get all that glue off there. Let's do pink, because I haven't used pink yet. All right. And let's do that. Am I the only one who talks to myself when I craft, or does anybody else talk to themselves when they craft? I hear
Well, now with the new technology, a bunch of us were Zooming in the afternoons and crafting.
Awesome. So you're not just talking to yourselves, you're talking to everyone else. So you know what? I'm going to keep crafting. I'm going to try something, and I'm not going to use this pink ink that I just pulled out. I'm going to try something different. I'm going to use, so I'm going to mix. I've done ink for the first 2 layers. And I'm going to take my snow and ice luster polish for my 3rd layer.
Hey, Sherry, it's Chris. Thanks very much. I really enjoyed watching this.
Awesome.
I gotta fly.
No worries.
Check you out next week.
Sounds like a plan. We'll see you then.
Bye, everybody.
All right, so I'm using this one's just like a clear sparkly one. And I'm gonna go in.
I'm feeling like there's a lot of experimentation, so you spend a lot of time, I think, playing, which is actually relaxing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't know about you, but I find, so when I planned in my brain what I was going to do today, I had some very specific things I was going to do. And yet when I started playing and prepping things, it's that, well, what if you did this? Or what if you tried that? So that creative play absolutely is where my happy place is. I like getting messy. My hands are inky, and those of you who have been in my classes know my saying, if you are not covered in ink and glitter and color, you're not having enough fun. And I do firmly believe that. There is no neatness in creativity. All right, so just to show you what I did. Ooh, it's so pretty. It's so pretty. Let's see. So I've got my 2 colors of ink, and then I added that shimmery layer. So if you had a clear or a silver paste that you wanted to put on there, anything really goes. So I'm gonna let that dry. I'm gonna do a really simple, and I pre-cut it, but now let's see if I can actually find it. Oh, it's right here in front of me. So I pre-cut a little thanks sentiment, and I pre-cut a little butterfly out of that same green foil from Craft Perfect. Love my Craft Perfect paper. Poke all these little bits out.
So how is that relative to cardstock? Like, it looks thicker.
The Craft Perfect paper?
Yeah.
It is a cardstock weight, so it very much is a cardstock. We have a bunch of different finishes. So this one is, I believe it's called mirror card because it's got that shiny look to it. We do have pearlescent card, which has so I would say this has, like I said, that metallic. The pearlescent does have a slight shimmer to it. But it is a cardstock weight, so it's nice and sturdy.
Okay.
But it cuts like butter.
Did you do that with a die cut or the Cricut?
Yes. No, this one, well, you could do it with the Cricut. I've done it with the Cricut as well. This one, I just had dies. I think I was actually proactive and put them away. But these are just dies through my Spellbinders machine, or you can use your Cuttlebug. And as long as you've got the right pressure, most of the time I can get this through in one pass. You don't have to worry about it going back and forth.
Okay, it's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
It really is. We've got tons of color. I don't know if Margaret's on the call here today, but we have, Margaret and a couple of ladies that they love to buy this stuff, and then they sit all afternoon and just die cut the snot out of it. And
okay, say what it's called again.
Craft Perfect.
Craft Perfect.
It's the brand. So that's it's from Tonic. So Craft Perfect is the brand name. The mirror card, like I said, is kind of that metallic shiny.
Okay.
And then we also have the pearlescent. So you can see, well, maybe not because my camera's not in the greatest position.
I can see
it almost looks glittery as opposed to sparkly metallic. The black is really nice as well in the mirror card. So I did pre-cut these die shapes before I got on the thing, but I do want to show you what I did, because so here is my main piece. I've cut it out of the center so that when I go to make my card, I can just layer it like that.
Sneaky.
So you're getting even more out of your cardstock. Because, you know, so the Craft Perfect, I think for the most part is, I want to say it's around $4. You get 5 8.5 by 11 sheets. So it's not crazy expensive. But you know what? Why not make it last? So if you know that all you're doing is using this as a border, then cut your sentiments out of the back, because nobody, and I mean nobody, is going to see it.
Well, it's beautiful. I really like for the sentiments. It really makes them pop.
It does. Now I can't, oh, here it is. I can't find my card base. So just to make that simple card, I've got my stenciled pattern. I now have my metallic background that I'm just going to stick it all down to. And attach this to my card base. So this is just going edge to edge. And then there's one last thing that I'm going to show you that I think you're all going to fall in love with, and that is sticky specs. Another good thing that I was introduced to in January, but never got brave enough to try until we were actually playing around here. So this is what a sticky speck looks like. It comes in sheets like this, and the adhesive on here, I don't know if you can see all these little honeycombs. That's what the adhesive looks like. So what you can do, because working with a glue pen isn't always easy, I'm just going to peel this back, and I've already used this a couple of times on other dies. Oh, now my fingers aren't working. I'm going to take my thanks. I'm peeling it back. I'm sticking it down. I'm going to close the lid, give it all the rub to transfer all of that adhesive. Peel. Come on. Delicate sentiment dies are always tricky because they've got so many little pieces.
This is cool though because it's wider than the Xyron, so you can do funkier shapes.
Yes, and like I said, it's really hard to show, but once you put a piece down and lift it up, there's still pieces left behind, so you can still use that paper for a long, long time. So there, I'm putting my thanks on, and I am a little bit crooked, but you know. So there, I've got my thanks. It matches my frame. I'm going to take my butterfly. Now with my butterfly, I'm just going to fold along his body because I want him to pop up. Take some more sticky specks. So there you go. We all love our pattern paper, but if you've got stencils, you can make your own pattern paper. And see how easy that was. So there you have it, ladies. I'm going to click back to gallery view. If you are done your card, I would totally love you to hold up to your camera what you made. Show me what you made. Oh, look at all of those. Oh, I like the purple and the green. Very nice. I like Tanya's there with the purples and the thinking of you. Fantastic. Well, ladies, thank you for sharing an hour plus with me this afternoon. Really enjoyed being here. We will do it again.
Thanks, Sheri.
Next week. You're so welcome. So we'll be back.
Sherry.
Back at 1 o'clock.
Next cards, ladies. Bye-bye.
Sorry.
Thanks,
Susan,
everybody.
speak up. I can't hear you.
Thanks, Sheri.
I So thanks, Sheri. Nice cards later.
Thanks a lot.
No worries. Next week, we're going to do a faux wood technique. So I hope you all come back and see me next Saturday.
See you next time.
Take
Will
good
do.
care, everyone.
Bye, Sheri.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sherry.
It's fun.